Hello everyone, this is Lexicon Architect coming at you with another budget commander list. And today we're going to be looking at Aragorn, King of Gondor. Um, so this is a deck I wanted to build for a while, and I finally got around to it. So let's get into the deck tech and see how this deck works. So Aragorn, King of Gondor is a 4-mana Jeskai spell with Vigilance and Lifelink, and it's a 4/4. But it says when it ETBs, you become the Monarch. So the way the Monarch works is at your end step, if you're the Monarch, you draw a card. And then for an opponent to become the Monarch, they have to deal combat damage to you with a creature. If they can't, you remain the Monarch until it comes back to your next turn if no opponent was able to successfully deal damage to you with a creature. So his second ability is what makes this commander and his deck very good, is the fact that when it attacks, up to one target creature cannot block this turn. And then if you are the Monarch, creatures cannot be blocked this turn. So not only do you get to make one creature not block, also all your other creatures are unblockable. So you can have some crazy as where you swing in with Aragorn, you make a creature can't block, and then all your creatures are able to swing freely into your opponent without having to worry about them being able to block any of them. So let's get into the creature package. We have Adeline, Resplendent Cathar, 3-mana creature with Vigilance that says its power and toughness. Its power is equal to the number of creatures you control. And then whenever you attack for each opponent, you create a 1/1 white human creature token that's tapped and attacking that player or planeswalker they control. Next, we have Archivist of Gondor, 3-mana spell that when it deals combat damage, whenever your commander deals combat damage to a player, if there is no Monarch, you become the Monarch. And at the end of the Monarch's turn, that player draws a card. So not only we're drawing a card off of Archivist, but we're also drawing a card because we are the Monarch. So we will draw 2 cards at our end step. Next, we have Archon of Coronation. It is a 5-mana flyer that when it ETBs, you become the Monarch. And as long as you are the Monarch, damage doesn't cause you to lose life. So it says here in the reminder text, whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, its controller still becomes the Monarch, whatever. So even if they deal combat damage to you and it's prevented, it doesn't cause you to lose life, they still become the Monarch regardless. Next is Aragorn of the Guard. It is a 4-mana 3/3 that when it or another human ETBs, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain Vigilance. Next, one of my favorite cards is Blade Historian, 4-mana spell that can be split up between red and white. Attacking creatures you control have double strike. Pairs good with this card as well because they're going to have double strike and +1/+1 and Vigilance. Next, we have Boromir, Gondor's Hope. It's a 4-mana spell. Then when it ETBs or attacks, you look at the top 6 cards of your library. Then you may reveal a human or an artifact card from among them, put it into your hand, and put the rest on the bottom. So this might help us get our mana rocks, or it might just get us another human, because mostly all the creatures in this deck are humans. It's pretty much a human tribal deck with a few creatures that aren't. Next, we have Boromir, Warden of the Tower. It is a very good card because for 3 mana, it's a Vigilance with 3/3. And for whatever reason, if our opponent casts a spell and they did not spend any mana to cast it, you counter it. And in a pinch, if we need to survive a board wipe, we can sacrifice this. And then creatures you control gain indestructible until the end of the turn, and then the ring tempts you. Next, we have Champions of Minas Tirith. When it ETBs, you become a Monarch. And at the beginning of each combat on your opponent's turn, if you are the Monarch, that opponent may pay X, where X is the number of cards in their hand. If they don't, they cannot attack you this turn. So let's say, for example, they have 5 cards in hand. They want to attack you. They're going to have to dump 5 mana to be able to attack you. Next, Copper Vanguard. It's a newer card. For 2 mana, each other human you control gets +1/+0 and ward 1. So if they decide to target your creature with a spell or an ability, they have to pay an additional 1 for that creature if they want that spell to resolve. Next, we have Denethor Stoneseer. It is a 2-mana creature that when it ETBs, you get to scry 2. And then for 4 mana, you can sacrifice it. Target player becomes the Monarch, and then it deals 3 damage to any target. Next, Emberwield Captain. When it ETBs, you become the Monarch, and whenever an opponent attacks you while you are the Monarch, it deals damage to that player equal to the number of the cards in their hand. So if they have 5 cards, again, they attack you, they are going to get dealt 5 damage to themselves. Next, we have Lord of the Westfold, 4-mana spell that says whenever it or another human enters a battlefield under your control, creatures you control get +1/+0. Next, we have Faramir Prince, the Faramir Prince, 4-mana spell that at the beginning of each of your end step, you choose an opponent, and at the beginning of that opponent's next end step, you draw a card if they didn't attack you. Otherwise, you create 3 1/1 white human soldier creature tokens. Next, we have another Faramir Steward of Gondor, that says whenever another legendary creature with mana value 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, you become the Monarch. And at the beginning of your end step, if you are the Monarch, you will create 2 1/1 white human soldier creature tokens. Next, we have Frontline Medic, 3-mana creature with power and toughness 3/3. It has an ability called Battalion that says whenever it and at least 2 other creatures attack, they gain indestructible. And then if you need to, for whatever reason, you can sacrifice this. Counter target spell with X in its mana cost unless its controller pays 3. Next, we have Losinart Captain. It is a 4-mana first strike that says whenever it or another human enters a battlefield under your control, you tap target creature an opponent controls. At the beginning of your upkeep, you create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. Next, we have Managara the Diplomat. It's a 4-mana spell with lifelink that whenever an opponent attacks with creatures, if 2 or more are attacking you or planeswalkers you control, you draw a card. And then the key payoff here is the second ability that says whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, you draw a card. Next, we have Polished Jailer, 4-mana spell that when it ETBs, you become the Monarch. And as it ETBs, you exile target creature an opponent controls. And your opponent becomes the Monarch. Next, we have Prince the Fair. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, you create a 1/1 white human soul professional Facebreaker. It's a 3-mana spell with menace that whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you create a treasure token. And then if you need to, you can sacrifice a treasure to exile the top card of your library, and you may play that card this turn. Next, we have Riders of Rohan. It's a 5-mana spell that when it ETBs, you create 2 2/2 red human creature tokens with trample and haste. And then for 6 mana, you can dash this in. So the reminder text says you may cast this card for its dash cost. If you do, it gains haste, and it is returned from the battlefield to its owner hand at the beginning of the next end step. So if we attack him with this, and for whatever reason it does not die, it will come back to our hand, and we can continuously dash this over and over again to create tokens and put pressure on our opponents. Next, we have Selfless Squire, 4-mana flash spell that when it ETBs, prevent all damage that will be dealt to you this turn. And then whenever damage that will be dealt to you is prevented, put that many 1/1 counters on it. Next, Skylon Despot, 7-mana flyer that when it ETBs, you become the Monarch. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if you are the Monarch, you will create a 5/5 red dragon token with flying. Next, Thalia's Lieutenant, which is a card we want to try to save for later in the game so it can pump the squad. Otherwise, sometimes you may be forced in a position to play it early, but that is totally up to you. But when it ETBs, you put a 1/1 counter on each other human. And then whenever another human ETBs under your control, you put a counter on Thalia's Lieutenant. Next, we have the Council of the Four, 5-mana spell that says whenever a player draws their second card each turn, you draw a card. And then whenever an opponent casts their second spell during their turn, you create a 2/2 white knight creature token. Next, we have Theoden, King of Rohan, It is a 3-mana spell. It says whenever it or another human ETB is under your control, target creature gains double strike until the end of the turn. Next, we have King of the Rohan. The other one, Eomer. 5-mana double strike that says ETBs with a 1/1 counter for each other human. And then when it enters this battlefield, target player becomes the Monarch. And then it deals damage equal to its power to any target. So let's say we have, for example, 5 humans. This comes in as a 7/7, and then you can deal 7 damage to any target. Next, and finally, we have Eowyn, Shield Maiden. This is a 5-mana spell with first strike. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if another human had ETB'd under your control, you create 2 red human knight creature tokens with trample and haste. Then, if you control 6 or more humans, you will draw a card. So let's get into the sorceries. We are running 6. We're going to be playing Call for the Aid, which allows us to gain control of all creatures target opponent controls until the end of the turn. You get to untap them. They gain haste, but you cannot attack that player this turn, and you cannot sacrifice those creatures. But it's still good because you can potentially steal a bunch of creatures from one of your opponents and then use their own creatures to kill another opponent, and then they'll get it back at the end of the turn. Next, Disrupt Decorum, 4-mana spell. This card just seems nuts because for 4 mana, you could just gold every single creature you don't control. So let me tell you how gold works. In a reminder text, until your next turn, those creatures attack each combat if able and attack a player other than you if able. So basically, it forces your opponents to attack each other and not you. And they have to attack as long as those creatures are able to attack. So this is an annoying card because you just watch your opponents fight among themselves, and they have no choice but to do it. Next, we play 4th, Eorlingus. It is a 2-mana X spell that for X you create that many 2/2 red human knight creature tokens, and then whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to one or more players this turn, you become the Monarch. Next, we play Rally at the Hornburg, 2-mana spell, simply to generate 2 1/1 human white human soldier creature tokens. They gain haste. Then we play Taunt from the Rampart. Again, this is another gold spell similar to Disrupt Decorum. You gold all creatures your opponents can turn. Until your next turn, those creatures cannot block. So let's think about it. You gold everyone's creatures. They're attacking everyone. Everyone's attacking everyone. And they cannot block each other. So one person has to attack another, the other person attacks another, and then the other person attacks another. And each of them cannot block. So this is gonna your opponents are gonna end up killing each other because of this, because they have no way to deal with it, unless they have some type of response spell in their hand to prevent damage or blow up the board or something like that. But if not, this card is incredible. Next, we have Visions of Glory. For 5 mana, you create a 1/1 white human creature token for each creature you control, and then it has a flashback cost of 10, but it costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest mana value of a commander you own on the battlefield or in the command zone. So since our commander is 4, this is going to cost 4 less. So for 6 mana, you can flash this back. For instance, we're playing Boros Charm, which we can only select one mode, but we can either deal 4 damage to target player or planeswalker, give your permanents indestructible, or target creature gains double strike. Next, we have Brainstorm, which allows us to draw 3 cards, put 2 on the back of your library in any order. Next, we have Call the Coppercoats, which is a way just to make a ton of tokens. And if we do pay the Strive cost, if we end up dumping 4 mana into this, we can copy the spell. Well, not copy the spell, but do this multiple times. So let's say one of our opponents has 5 creatures. We tap this for 3. We make 5. Then we tap 2 again, choose another opponent, and then tap 2 again, choose another opponent, and then make that any number of human tokens, where X is the number of creatures your opponents control. Next, we have Counterspell, just a 2-mana spell to counter a spell. Dovin's Veto, to counter a target non-creature spell, and this can be countered. Generous Visitor, just to remove a problematic permanent. And Unbreakable Formation to either swing for the win or give us protection and give our creatures indestructible. For artifacts, we're going to just be running general mill stuff. Arcane Signet, Azorius Signet, Boros Signet, Chromatic Lantern to fix our land base. Commander Sphere, Door of Destinies to put counters on it every time we play a human. Horn of Gondor to create humans and make more humans for 3 mana. Lightning Grease to protect the creature. Soul Ring for ramp. Swift Boots to protect the creature, and Sword of the Animus to grab lands from out of our deck. As far as enchantments, we're going to be playing Court of Ardenvale, which is a new card that when it ETBs, you become the Monarch. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you can return a target permanent with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the hand. But if you are the Monarch, you can put it onto the battlefield. We're also playing the new card Cult of Cunning, 3-mana spell. And I think this is probably the best one out of the Monarch enchantments, just for the fact that at the beginning of your upkeep, any number of target players each mills 2 cards. But if you are the Monarch during your upkeep, you can mill your opponents for 10. So each opponent is going to mill 10 cards during your upkeep as long as you are the Monarch. Next, we have the other Monarch enchantment called Court of Embereth. When it ETBs, obviously you become the Monarch, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you make a 3/1 Red Knight creature token, and then if you are the Monarch, it deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the amount of damage, the X is the number of creatures you control. Excuse me. Next, we have Court of Ire. When it ETBs, you become the Monarch, and at the beginning of your upkeep, Court of Ire deals 2 damage to any target, and if you are the Monarch, it does 7 instead. Next, we have Court of Vantress of 4 mana. When it ETBs, you become the Monarch, and at the beginning of your upkeep, choose up to 1 other target enchantment or artifact. If you are the Monarch, you may create a token that's a copy of it. If you are not a Monarch, you may have Court of Vantress become a copy of it, except it has this ability. Next, we have Dawn of the New Age. One of my favorite cards from the Lord of the Rings set that says when ETBs, put a hope counter on it for each creature you control, and then at the beginning of your end step, remove a hope counter from it, and if you do, you draw a card, and then when there are no more hope counters left on it, you gain 4 life. Next, we have Fealty to the Realm. It's a 5-mana spell to enchant creature. When it ETBs, you become the Monarch, and then the Monarch controls enchanted creature. Enchanted creature attacks its combat if able and cannot attack you. Next, we have Flowering of the White Tree. Legendary creatures you control get +2/+1 and have ward 1, and non-legendary creatures you control get +1/+1. Next, we have Ghostly Prison as a stacks card, to make it so that creatures cannot attack you unless they pay 2 for each creature. Next, we have Oath of Erol. On the first chapter of the saga, you will create 2 1/1 white human soldier creature tokens. Step 2, you create 2 human knight creature tokens. And then on the final chapter, you put an indestructible counter onto 1 target human, and then you become the Monarch. Then we are playing Propaganda, which is basically the same card as Ghostly Prison. And then finally, we are playing Shared Animosity. Whenever a creature you control attacks, it gives +1/+0 to the end of the turn. For each other attacking creature, that shares a creature type for it. As far as the land base, I'm not going to discuss any of this because, as far as I can see, we are not playing any utility lands except for Mana Tirith. Just because whenever you attack with 2 or more creatures, you can tap 2 mana to tap this and to draw a card. And that is the deck in a nutshell. It's definitely a little bit more on the expensive side, coming around $250, but whatever the case may be, it's the term budget is very subjective, so someone may view a deck under $300 to be a budget deck. Um, it just really depends on your mindset. So if you enjoyed this deck and this style of content, please leave a subscribe on my YouTube. And this video will be uploaded shortly with all my social media links. And I hope you have a wonderful and great day.